is glowing.
Oh, thank you. I feel like that about you too.
It helps being a blonde too, but you look like an angel.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I feel like you're always glowing too. So we're just mirroring each other's glow.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Becoming Show. Today, I'm so grateful to have my friend Carie Bailey, an expert on relationship, but not just the regular. She works with leaders, and her specialty is in connection, deep connection, how to be deeply felt and seen. And it's just not just financial success, but it's bringing family, legacy, love, and all that together. And today, Carrie's going to share with us a few important key tips and success, key tips on how to achieve all of that. Thank you so much, Carrie, for being on this show.
Oh, thank you, Quinn, for inviting me. It's so nice to connect with you again.
You know what? I remember the first time that I went through your presentation that I was very privileged to be part of. I remember I was crying. And that was because you had all these exercises or these questions that you made us ask ourselves. And I teared up. And I remember how beautiful that was. And of course, so that was like, oh, I have to be able to work with Carrie somehow or bring her on the show or something. That's why I'm very grateful to have you on this show today.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I feel like when you have a moment with someone like that, it just is, it's something that you keep sacred. And so I too felt that moment with you, and it was really special. So thank you.
You know what? In terms of, I know you've worked with a lot of super successful leaders, but as you shared, whether they're super successful or whether they're struggling, the family relationship, it there's always problems everywhere. Maybe can you please share a little bit, maybe the difference between like super successful versus struggling people? Is there a difference in how there's strain in the family connections?
Yeah, I mean, what we were talking about before, we hit record was, when some of the work that I've done with families of influence, um, that are very public, or that are, very highly resourced, and money and influence are just magnifiers. And so, I think that we're all human, right? And so we wrestle with a lot of the same things, with human disconnection in general, and these default responses, and wanting to love in a higher way. And when you have the world watching you, or when you have um, so many demands constantly, or the pressure to be in the public eye, or kind of stewarding a family empire, there's extra, I think, magnifiers on the family dynamic. And I would say the families that I've been working with more recently are families who are hyper intentional
Oh,
about their family dynamics. And so I've moved out of just because I was, for a very long time, I was, almost not crisis management, but people came when there was a problem to solve.
right.
Um, and often I find that families who kind of stay in the struggle are problem focused. And
Mm.
so it's they're seeking guidance or help when there's a problem to solve. And then as soon as the problem is like addressed for the moment, then they're, okay, good, I'm good, thank you.
Oh,
And so I think that's when the intentionality, and then the commitment to what it is you're creating in a family, I think is the differentiator between, are you going to continue to kind of, struggle, and then have a reprieve from that, and then struggle and then have a reprieve, or are you committed to getting underneath you
Mm.
know, to the root causes of disconnection, and where differences divide, and seek to be super intentional. And because the families that I now am working with, it's not about solving a problem necessarily. It's about redefining what's possible. And
Oh, that is
and
so
dis
beautiful.
and it's about discovering, like, who are we really and what are we capable of, and what is the best we have to offer, and how can we be present to the rising generation in a way that we're igniting new possibilities, of for them and for our family and for our legacy, and the ripple effect beyond that. And so that gets really exciting because there's a commitment to, um I would say, ushering in something entirely new. And it's just a different level of commitment to family dynamics.
Wow, I wish everyone can have that kind of intention.
Me too. Me
Wow,
too.
that sounds just so beautiful. But and you're right. A lot of times we just fix the problem at hand,
Mhm.
and when it's fixed, it's like, okay, good. Now we're okay. Let's just continue on as we were before, right?
Yeah.
Oh, if that's the case for people,
Mhm.
you know what? This is wonderful that we can deep dive into this new way of being, of intention, setting the
Mhm.
intention for the family.
Mhm.
What would you say is the keys to, like, how do we even start with this intention? Is it, do we have like a weekly family meeting, or like how would you start
Mhm.
this?
Well, I mean, there's kind of two different ways I can answer that. One is like logistically, structurally, how do you do that? Like family meetings or habits in the family. I actually think it starts before that, because I think the structure and the habits and the routines follow something else. And I personally believe that each of us, and I don't know at what point we decided that it wasn't possible, or we decided to settle, or, it was not what we deserved. But I believe that inside each of us, there is this, like, we hold this sacred memory of knowing what's possible in family relationships and love. And then at some point, we decide, to settle, or, I don't know. I just feel like we give up on this vision that I think is within us. And so I believe that it starts with kind of remembering, um, and giving ourselves permission to vision, what we really desire. Like, not just what does our head want, not just what does our heart, the human heart desire, but deep in our, like, being, in our spirit, our soul, whatever, language you want to use for that. What is it that we really, like, yearn to create,
Mm.
in love? Like, what is our capacity to love, and what do we desire, for that and for our family relationships? And um so I think that sometimes we don't let ourselves actually go there enough. Um
And
so
it's really
I think it
hard
starts
to
there.
do that too. It's really hard to do that too when our parents generation, we don't see that, right?
Mhm.
So if you were born into a family where, let's say, our parents were arguing and not so happy, not so
Mhm.
in love, and we
Mhm.
see that vision, and then we don't have the ideal version of what it
Mhm.
could be. So it's very
Yeah.
hard to know what we want when we grew up with not that as a role
Mhm.
model.
Mhm.
What would you know what, let's, that this is so beautiful that we can actually even go there. Can you give us
Mhm.
some visions, or what is possible between, so let's start
Mhm.
with the couple, the husband and wife, or
Mhm.
the parents first, because that will trickle down into the children
It
and
does.
their relationships, right?
It does. Yes. And okay, so I kind of want to answer that in two parts, because
Okay.
one is I didn't come from a family with a perfect example.
Ah, okay, this is
I
wonderful then. Okay.
so it actually was the opposite for me. I grew up, so my mom, when I was like 4 or 5, I was taken away from my dad, and my mother had severe schizophrenia. And so I actually grew up in a very violent, dark, house. And so I had the exact opposite of what is healthy for a child.
Right.
And I remember I have this distinct memory of being, I don't know how old, this young girl in her pajamas on the couch. And it was like, I think my first time watching Cinderella. And
Right.
I identified with her struggle, of not being seen and of being undervalued and even mistreated. And then, she found her prince and I just remember like rooting for her so deeply. And then, at the end of the movie, I felt like it was just the beginning. Like they found each other. Okay, now what? Like, tell
Ah,
me, please, what does this look like? And I
right.
remember seeing the words and they lived happily ever after. And I leaned so far that I actually like almost fell off the couch. Like it was like such a lean in moment for me at this young age. And it
Yeah.
wasn't just this casual interest in knowing, like, okay, what does that look like? It was like I needed to know
Mm,
what this looked like because I felt like in that moment, I needed a lifeline
yeah.
of that something else was possible than this like really painful existence that I had.
Right.
And so I think that moment birthed this curiosity of what does that look like? What is possible?
Right.
And then fast forward and I'm married and I, by the way, had this like deep emotional pain that I carried from my, traumatic childhood, that I thought was like a loneliness that once I was married, it would go away. Like I just needed to find my prince, right? I just needed to like be married and then like I would have someone in my life, and I could now create that type of relationship. And I remember being married with children and my husband would tell me he loved me and my kids would wrap their little arms around me and give me kisses and I could feel their sweet little arms and it was like when my husband told me he loved me, he said like I like your shirt. Like I couldn't feel anything, even though I now was in this environment that I had just yearned for.
Right.
And what I realized is I couldn't, like I had numbed out so
Oh,
much that I literally couldn't feel and I couldn't receive love. And so um I that really kind of propelled this journey for me of like what is happening within me that then is blocking this capacity to feel love, and what kind of love am I giving if I'm blocked, so it was such a deep dive. So this question of what's possible really has taken me into like a 25-year very very deep dive.
wow.
And I can tell you now that it's beyond what I knew then was possible at this like young age.
Wow.
But there was a moment in that like leaning in where I felt like in the hope of, and in the like desire to know what's possible, there was this like moment of pause where I felt this incredible love. And I just knew that kind of love existed. And I didn't know where I was going to find it. It certainly wasn't, in my upbringing. I didn't feel at all loved there. Um, but there was, and that was my like knowing of something. And what I can say now is it's for sure not a destination that like, and
Right.
that's what I thought it was with the like, and they lived happily ever after, like, oh, you find your person and then check the box, like
Mhm.
you're just happy forever, like, and that's it. And you don't have like the ups and the downs, and that of course isn't it.
Right.
But to go back to answer your question about like what is possible in the husband-wife relationship, um, what I've discovered so far, and of course I'm on this perpetual learning journey with it, but
Yeah.
what I've discovered so far is that there's this magic between a couple, that exists where you can see beyond the behaviors. You can see beyond, the past and beyond your like human lens, and you can see the true, like the light and the soul and the true essence of the other, and discover how to be present in a way that you're a mirror to that.
Wow.
And the way that you listen is beyond your, like, I agree, your filters, your human filters of, I agree, I disagree, you're right or you're wrong, or I'm gathering evidence, or fact checking you, or taking the past and projecting it onto the moment. That actually a marriage can be a sacred container of
Mm,
truly deeply actually seeing one another and holding space for the other person to be on their journey, following this gravitational pull inward of remembering who they really are. And that it can just become this sacred container where both are remembering, and the way that they see each other facilitates that, because you become a mirror to that light within the other. And so I don't know if that sounds too woo, but it's for me, it's a love that I didn't even know, like, because the human heart isn't capable of this kind of love. Like, we wall off and we numb out, and it's super conditional. But there's this other, like, we're human, yes, our mind, body, and heart are human, but there's this other aspect of who we are that, like, our human, for example, listens through the filters and sees through this human lens and judges and categorizes. But this other aspect of us sees beyond all of that and listens, like, beyond the words, and can feel into someone else's experience and can hold emotional intimacy in a way that brings you into a deeper place than you've ever been. And now it's the shared journey of, with each other. And it's I can't there's like this palpable sensation you have when you're like heard in that way and seen in that way and listened to and gotten in that way, that it just is uh I mean people describe it as emotionally orgasmic. Like, it
I
just
love that.
it's
I love that. But
like,
you
I
know
don't
what?
know a better way to describe
That is
it.
such a big gift to be present, the way that you just mentioned.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember in the workshop that you did that I was part of,
Hmm.
you helped us learn how to be present for the
Hmm.
other person, how
Yeah.
to look into the other person's eyes. Oh, I remember that now. Oh my gosh. Oh, that
Yes.
is, yeah. And I think that is so beautiful. Like what you just mentioned, what you
Mm-hmm.
just described,
Mm.
like you said, it's kind of like emotional orgasm.
Yeah.
Just being
Yeah.
seen that way,
Hmm.
not through the filters of
Hmm.
judging or, oh yeah, oh my gosh. But then, okay, so how do we, is there something that is it in how you listen? Is it in how you uh be present, or that
Hmm.
you give them that sense of being seen and being.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it starts, I think the quality of our presence and listening starts, I believe, in how we see others.
Hmm,
And of course, let's like reverse engineer that back. So much of it is our own identity level work
hmm,
of because our capacity to love, our capacity to see, so much is relative to how we understand who we are. Um, like, who do we believe ourselves to be? And for, I think, most, if not all of us, there's a common human experience that we have, that at a young age, I actually, I actually think it's a spiritual fragmentation. It's a disconnection from this higher nature that we all have within us,
hmm,
because at some point at a young age, usually it's kind of before 9, that we experience something like this. We all have a relational experience, and sometimes many of them, where regardless of how much our parents love us, we're because we're all imperfect, and we're also human, we'll have an experience where we feel less than, or
hmm,
not good enough, or there's aspects of ourselves that we feel like we have to, disown or hide or minimize or change to be good enough, to deserve, to be loved fully. And so, um when we compartmentalize ourselves like that and we fragment, we believe that we're not good enough, it actually impacts how we see others, because
Mm,
then it creates this human way of seeing with the filters and the judgment and the categorizing people. And so much of that, I think it begins in the awareness of how we see another.
yeah,
Because how we see them impacts how we think about them, impacts how we feel about them, which impacts then how we listen to them, and the filters and the
yeah,
judgment and all the like voices, that are going along with how we listen. And
mm,
so there's layers of things that impact the quality of our presence. So I actually believe it starts within ourselves.
yeah.
And then, the ripple effect is into the quality of the presence. And there is, a skill set to develop with that to override all the human stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? If you ever get to work with Carrie, this is the part where you get to cry and feel deeply seen. But it's a process, so we won't have time to go into it today. But let's
Yeah.
let's dive into more about. Okay, so between the husband and wife to be seen like
Mhm.
that. Now, can you? Is it different
Mhm.
how if between parents, between mothers and child, or fathers and child, is it different dynamics versus husbands and wife?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, please
Yeah.
share.
Oh, totally. Which is why I like to start, when there is a couple, when there's husband, wife together, I for sure like to start with them,
Mm,
because as a parent, it's a different type of love.
mm,
You would throw yourself in front of a bus in a nanosecond without any thought, for your child.
yeah,
But with someone you've chosen, to be, to go through life with, it's the most, our romantic relationships are the most confronting mirrors to what we do with our heart, and to the conditional way that we love, like that our human heart loves. And so, because it's the most confronting mirror, I believe it's the most direct path, actually, to remembering who we are and expanding our capacity to love. Um, because it's the hardest.
mm,
So, in our marriages, we for sure get triggered the most. We
yeah,
for sure recognize like what we do with differences, for example.
yeah,
Um, and that's, going back to like what's possible in with the human side of us. Differences cause division, disconnection, argument, frustration. You want to change the other person, right?
yeah,
Um, but we actually have something entirely different possible within us too. And that is expansion, where we can actually get outside of our perspective and go into the view. And for me, it's like I when I listen to someone, I visually see and I feel what they're describing. And so the only way I can describe it is like you're coming out of your like worldview, your perspective, your experience, and you're coming into the heart space of another in
mm,
a way that you're letting them fill in the details, and you're not projecting your stuff onto them or how it should be, right?
mm,
And so you're like walking into their heart space and feeling what they're feeling, and understanding them in a deeper way. And when you do that, and by the way, we all have that capacity, and we do it when we're reading a book, we do it when we go to the movies. We don't bring our expectation of what it needs to look like and our judgment. It's, there's a level of like, healthy dissociation where
yeah,
we disconnect from expectation of how things should be, and
yeah,
we just allow the movie to like take us on a journey, right?
right,
If we did that with each other in a way that we allowed the other to take us on a journey into something entirely different, in search of expansion, in search of value, in search of wisdom that we don't have access to from our perspective, it's a different way of listening to one another, to where actually we need the differences to be able to co-create in inspired ways where we can see the whole cake. You can see every aspect of it, every slice of it.
yeah,
That And so it's It is very different, the husband-wife relationship versus the parent-child. Also because I believe as adults, it's our job to be present to them in ways that they're deeply seen. And we're always the ones listening, with them. Um, it tends to be the other way around. Like we want them to just listen to us often. Like
Yeah.
that's the default, right?
Yes.
Um, but the more that we know how to, we assume the role of listener and we go in without judgment, without expectation, without finding their words to, then teach it into, make it into a teaching moment. And we're just present and we see our children and we see beyond their behavior and we see like who they really are outside of all of that. It truly is life-giving.
Mhm.
And of course, that same thing is life-giving in husband and wife relationship. But I believe we really need to take turns in a husband and wife relationship of listening to each other in this way. And with our kids, like I just think we need to always kind of adopt the let me understand you,
Oh,
because it's a sacred honor for our children to bring us into. Oh, and for our spouses, right? To bring us into their world. And often kids don't think adults are safe enough to do that. And so they wall off. And especially now, especially like it used to be back in the day, they would say, go talk to a trusted adult. And now there's such a division I've seen with young people that they feel like adults will make it worse, or they feel like we're not even a resource, or we're too distracted, or we're too busy, or they know what we're going to tell them because we say the same things over and over to them. And
mm.
so, yeah, it's a very different dynamic.
For sure. In that case, and especially parents, a lot of parents make the mistake of, because we want them to be happy, thinking that this is what makes us happy. So if they do this, they'll be happy, right? Without thinking that they're different, and
Yeah.
what makes them happy is very can be very different from what makes us happy. But as
Yeah.
parents, and I think the age of the children also uh,
Hmm.
matters a lot in terms of how to love them and how to
Hmm.
treat them. Can you? So you know what? Maybe let's make this talk more about you giving us some advice on how to treat our children, like
Hmm.
with the certain age range, how
Hmm.
how to love them, how to
Hmm.
make them feel connected and trust, so that they can share with us anything, especially during the teen years. Because I find that
Hmm.
when they're young, they can tell us anything. But when
Yeah.
it comes to teenage years, I find that they tend to withdraw a lot more.
Hmm.
So maybe that's the gap. That's the age that maybe we can. Can you share some tips on
Yeah.
how parents can to relate
Yes.
better?
And I have 3 teenagers myself right
Ah,
now.
perfect.
Yes, and I love these years.
Wow, you love these years.
I
I'm so
love these
happy for
years.
you.
Oh, I love these years because and my kids bring their friends here and it's just so fun to talk to, then their friends about, like all these things. So I love these years and I think that teens are largely misunderstood
Mm,
by us. And we want the best, right? As parents, like we are like I feel like we're willing to like do anything to figure out how to be there for our children in ways that are impactful and meaningful.
mm,
And so it can be really difficult when we love them so much and yet they like kind of shut us out. Um so yes, I'm happy to share. Actually, and I don't know if you knew this, Quinn. My background when I started in all of my like preceptorships and internships for to be a mental health professional, um, I started with suicidal teens.
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow. Okay.
Yes, and that was quite interesting. So so teens, guidance on teens. Actually, I do want to kind of preface what I'm about to say with this. I think that often we feel like teens don't want to talk to us. And I actually believe that, and sometimes teens convince themselves that they don't, but really, like, deep down, I think there's such a desire and such a yearning to be close.
Mm,
Um, but often there's these, like, it's self-preservation. They've
mm,
built like a wall out of protection.
yeah.
Or and also, they desire independence, but I just I feel like it's important to just iterate this. Like, our our children really do actually deeply desire to connect with us.
Mm,
Um, and so I believe it's our responsibility to discover how to be safe enough for
yes.
them to feel like they can open up and say anything. And it's a safe space. We're not going to be reactive. We're not going to hold it against them. We're not going to be judgmental.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have this expectation, like going back to what you were talking about earlier, where we're like, do this to be happy.
Mm.
So we listen from like I'm going to help you solve your problem. Let me hear a little bit about what you're dealing with, and then let me tell you what you need to do. But you and I both know, as women, when we share with men and they do that, we're like, no, no, that's not what I want. So the same thing applies for teens, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I'll say this too. Um, how we see them matters, and it impacts how we listen. And so if we see teens as problem children, that's how we're going to listen to them. And they feel that. They
Mm,
feel that very strongly, and it will create such a wall.
yeah.
Um, and I actually think it's heartbreaking because their behavior often, I mean, there's so many hormonal changes, and then there's behavioral changes, and then they have so much going on. I actually don't think we even understand a fraction of what they're dealing with often.
Yeah.
We just see the behavior, and then we respond to the behavior, or we judge them or label them or categorize them according to their behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like if we really understood what was happening for them, we would have more compassion and empathy, and be much less judgmental or critical or rigid, or, so, teenagers, I feel like if we could really understand that they have an inner knowing within them that is better than any advice we could give them.
Mm,
And if we can actually if we can see them in this way, that they are an incredible human being with a spirit, a soul, whatever you want to call that, of inherent worth and value, that they don't need to earn love. They don't need to prove themselves. Their identity isn't in their grades or their athletics or their accomplishments, right? We know this when they're born. We feel that inherent worth and value, right? And
yeah.
then sometimes along the way, somewhere along the way, just like in marriage, we start to see them differently based on our experiences with them and their behavior and, different things. I just think we really got to hold on to understanding that inherent worth and value and the light within them, and that wisdom that is, it's not in their head yet. Right? And we know that as adults. And so sometimes we equate their wisdom with like just what their head knows. Um, but at a soul level, there is wisdom that is so much better than even the guidance we would give them. And so I personally believe that our role as parents is to see the best in them always, and to see and hold that inherent worth and value in them, especially when they forget,
Mm,
because they will. In teen years, they're going through this whole identity level. Who am I? Where does my worth and value come from? Where do I belong? Where do I fit? What do I have to do to earn love? Because at some point they already feel not good enough about something,
yeah.
right? And about who they are. And so what I feel like what they need from us is for us, number one, to never let anything diminish their inherent worth and value,
Mm,
and to hold that and to see that in them, and to listen to them from that space, and listen to them in a way that we're kind of helping them go deeper. Because if you imagine a ladder from like your head into your heart, into like soul level wisdom, and typically, like, we're all kind of, we start at the surface, And I don't know if have you seen that Brene Brown video on empathy?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
so good. Yeah.
So good. Okay, so and for those who haven't seen it, she describes a ladder also, and it's so funny. I've been using this ladder metaphor for like 2 decades, and I didn't actually know who Brene Brown was, and
Ah!
I had this client who was like, "Oh, you're describing a ladder like Brene Brown," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I looked up her video, and I was like, "Amazing, perfect. Okay, let's build off of this, right?" So she's talking, of course, about like when someone is deeper, like, and she refers to like someone's in a hole. And if
Mhm.
you're looking in and you're like, hey, it must really be horrible down there, and you're just like staying above the surface, it feels really yucky. It
Mm,
feels like such an emotional disconnect, right?
yeah.
And if you're willing to come down into where they are without judgment, without trying to fix it, without trying to silver line it, or motivate them to fix it, or like, because if we think the only emotion that's valid, worth feeling is happiness, then we're going to invalidate whatever experience they're having. And so the willingness to feel with them from a space of knowing their inherent worth and value, knowing that they have an inner knowing within them, and that it's a sacred honor for them to share emotion with you. Even just that sets us up for a different quality of presence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is such a huge gift to be able to come down without any judgment and just to see who they are and just be with them. That is such a big gift that we can give. And you know what you mentioned earlier about our children, the fact that if we can actually see them as they already know how to be and they're perfect as they are, that would be
Mhm.
so beautiful because then they don't have to go outside and seek approval or attention from other people. Because I think
Yeah.
if at home, if we make them feel enough, if we make them feel
Hmm.
they're perfect as they are and they don't have to prove anything to be loved,
Hmm.
they won't have
Hmm.
to do it outside, right?
Hmm. And perfect is a tricky word, I think, because especially teens, they're like, well, I have all this stuff going on. I'm not perfect. I'm messing up at this and this. And so the perfection is in like their true essence is beautiful. It's and but I think there's a realistic aspect of it that we're perfectly imperfect. We
Yes.
are all a work in progress.
Yeah.
We all like we need to be allowed to be messy. We need
Yeah.
to be allowed to mess up. We need to be allowed to be in discovery, of who we really are and what
Yeah.
we're capable of. And sometimes that, isn't a linear path in any way. And
Yeah.
so I feel like when we can give them the space to be on their journey, and to be the safe landing space for them to come
Yeah.
to share what's going on in their inner world. I mean, I, you know, this is actually the why behind everything I do. My deepest longing and desire is for every single child in the world to have someone in their life that can see them in this way.
Mm.
Um, I, I fully believe that, especially as parents, we have a greater power with our children than any mental health professional, because we can us seeing them this way is life-giving. It is the thing that their heart and soul desires. And
Yeah.
when they don't receive that from us, they will spend their life feeling like they're not good enough and
Yeah.
in search of something external to fulfill this emptiness and void and longing within themselves, and experiencing being seen in this way and being held in this way, safe to be messy, safe to be discovering, safe to be figuring it out, but someone who knows their worth and value, even when they don't, and even when they mess up, because it's not contingent on accomplishment and all of those things. It's life-giving. It
Yeah.
really is.
Oh, that is so beautiful. On the other hand, I would love to ask you this because some child are entitled, and this is this it has a lot to do with how they were raised. But some
Mhm.
child nowadays are a bit entitled, and they expect to be, so like, how do
Yeah.
you balance between seeing them
Mhm.
uh being able to be whoever they are and loving
Mhm.
them as they are no matter
Mhm.
what, versus
Mhm.
them taking that and then expecting
Mhm.
everybody else to do what they want and
Yeah.
do it the way that I want it to be served. Because
Mhm.
I do have some friends whose child is, I would say, oh my gosh. So I don't
Yeah.
have that loving eyes, because I feel like, I can't parent this child.
Yeah.
So definitely I need to learn how to handle in cases like that, or even
Well,
with our child when they act up like that. How do
well,
you
it does
see
so
them?
seeing their like their inherent worth and value doesn't mean that you also don't recognize the human behaviors that are going on.
Okay.
Right? It's just that you know that they're capable of so much more, right? And so it doesn't mean that we give them everything that they want. It
uh,
doesn't mean that we don't challenge them. It doesn't mean that we don't address these
uh-huh.
behavioral issues and attitudes. And actually, I feel like seeing who they really are and knowing that they're capable of so much more than those type of behaviors is, having them realize, and see what they're currently doing and inviting them forward, like inviting them to discover. I mean, in our home, I can tell you, we have these conversations every day.
Mhm.
Every single day, it's the mirror of, like for each of us, of realizing the human element and the messiness
Yeah.
and that we are capable of more.
Yeah.
And so I'm I completely advocate for ownership and accountability and responsibility and helping our children be discover their higher capabilities, and that means addressing entitlement. It means addressing bad behavior. It means really like actually stepping into those moments with your children from holding them high, and also having them be accountable to
Mhm.
those things, because I think sometimes we merge two different things a little too much.
Yeah.
Seeing their inherent worth and value and being present to them in this way with, oh, that means never hold them accountable. Oh, that means they get everything they want. Oh, that means I never want them to want for anything. And that is, not super healthy for a
Mhm.
child.
Mhm. Right.
I actually believe it's the other way. I actually believe that we need to have them be aware, self-aware. We need to have our children understand the impact of their behavior, their attitude, their decisions on other people. And when we don't, I mean, we're kind of creating monsters, right? I mean, like, what are we doing if our children are going out in the world thinking, like, unaware of the impact they have on other people and
Yeah.
just expecting, like, I mean, I think that that's really a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And then, okay, do you, and I'm curious, this is a, and you can totally say however it is. Like, you have three children. Do you
yeah.
love them differently? Like, do you have a favorite child? Seriously.
My literally, my daughter asks me that every day.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
no, I don't.
Oh,
I don't
really?
have a favorite child. I mean, each of my children, so I have two boys and a girl, and they are so incredibly different.
Yeah.
Um, and like it's like, and I have a friend who had one, and she was afraid to have another because she was like, I can't love another like I love this one,
Uh,
and I can't, your first is like your first,
yeah.
and so she was so concerned that she wasn't going to love the second,
Yeah.
and so when I had my second. And I also had that concern. I was like, I don't know either. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, we'll see. And but I experienced something different, and my heart expanded.
Uh,
My love multiplied. It didn't divide. And
uh,
so No, I don't. I truly 100% don't have a favorite, but I will say I enjoy certain stages better than others.
Really?
The older my children get, it's more fun for me. So
Ah,
I loved them little, and like their soft skin and their
yeah,
little, and then their little voices, and
yeah,
like every stage was precious.
yes,
But the older they get, the more fun I have, because I'm into the deep dive, right? I
yeah,
I, I want to like deeply know them and know their thoughts, and know, like, what's developing and how they're feeling and thinking and seeing the world and themselves in it. And so the older they get, the more they're in discovery, and the
yeah.
more, and so that's just so fun for me. Like, I have an 18-year-old right now who's about to graduate and leave home, and every time I think about him leaving, I get emotional, because I just, I don't know, I just don't, like, this is my last, like, last couple months with my babies, like, under the same roof, and I just love that so much. And so it's so fun to hear him talk about his worldview and what he wants to do in life. And he's such a, aspiring entrepreneur, and he has big vision. And I don't know, and then I have a 16-year-old who is so fun and snuggly. And then I have my daughter who's 13. And that's a tough age.
Yes.
But she's like, she brings such life to the family, and she reminds us to play, and she like does all the girl things with me. And like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't give any of them up, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
they're each of, like, every child is such a blessing in a
yeah.
different way.
Of course, and especially when they were raised up in a family like you with so much tools and processing, and the way that you treat them, how you see them, and how you
Mm,
envision them to be who they are. Oh, they're so lucky. But you know what?
mhm,
And I would love for you to give our audience a gift of
mhm,
maybe how to how to create a relationship with someone else, whether it's
mhm,
children or husbands and wife or even parents. But how do you
mhm,
build? So let's start from, let's say it's not that great. Let's say there is
okay,
a barrier. Let's say there is friction and
mhm.
lack of trust to be able to share. How do we go
Yeah.
from there to be able to share and receive whatever comes? Because I think it takes only one person to have the
Mm.
courage to start.
It
Then
does.
then the
It
relationship would change.
Yes, it takes one person to be the catalyst for sure, and to continue to be the catalyst in that relationship. So okay, so let's go into your example. So let's say we're taking a relationship that's strained,
Yeah,
right? You said there's trust issues,
yeah.
and so
Or
how do you, yeah.
yeah, like so let's take it from some a relationship where it's
Mhm,
strained in a sense where they
mhm.
don't feel safe to share.
Okay, okay,
Any, so it could be children
mhm.
or husbands and wife or anybody,
Or
but so
parents, or
basically
yeah.
they want to, so let's say they want to improve the dynamics of the relationship, but right
Mhm,
now it's strained.
mhm,
It's hard to open up.
mhm.
So how do we start?
Well, okay, so several things. So, but I have some questions first, because it's hard for them to open up and they don't feel safe. So, what's their intention? Is obviously the bigger picture is like improve the relationship, but
Yes,
is their intention that the other person becomes safe enough then for them to share more?
yes, let's do that.
Okay, because I actually would turn that around and
Okay.
say, if you're the catalyst, then you learn how to be the safe place for
Oh,
them to share, and then they'll experience being seen and heard and listened to in a different way. And for most people, they need to experience that level of presence to even know that that's possible. And so
okay. You know what, Carie? I think I
Yeah.
need to make it more specific
Okay.
because
Okay. Let's
because
go.
if we do it generally, it will be very hard for you. So let
Yeah.
me be more specific, and I'm gonna
Okay.
put my own situation in.
Okay.
I I know my mother loves me,
Mm,
and the problem, if there's any strain, it would be that I'm unable to share honestly with her my fears or my
mm,
failures or anything going on with my life
mhm,
for because I because okay, probably because what she's about to say or what she says can have
mhm,
a very deep impact on me negatively. So if she
mhm,
judges, I'm going to beat myself a lot more. So I think
mm,
I have a fear of sharing with my mom because I'm afraid of what she'll say.
mm,
So so in this case the power is on her, not on me. So then I'm not, so what you just say earlier, if I was
mhm,
the opposite, if I was my mom, then I would
mhm,
like, and I would like to change the dynamics of the
mhm,
relationship. It would definitely be easier because she has the power. But in this
mhm,
case I'm the child, and I feel unsafe to share,
mhm,
and I feel
mhm,
I would love to share, but I don't know how to do it in a way that number one that I'm still protected from
mhm,
being uh because here's the truth, like if I hear someone judges me like a stranger, it wouldn't bother me at all
mhm,
because they're not important to me. But if
mhm,
someone I love and care about judges me and tells me that is wrong and you've done this so wrong,
mhm.
then it makes me it hits me
It
home.
hurts.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
hurts.
it
Yes,
hurts.
it
Yeah.
hurts. Yes, and it hits home very differently,
Yeah.
especially when I think all my life I've always tried to make her proud,
Mm,
and I don't think, and I have come to, I think I've come to peace that maybe she'll never be proud of me, and I've come to
mm,
peace with that in the sense that I'm not working for that anymore, and
mm,
that's the reason why nowadays I'm a lot more authentic to who I am, in spite of whether
uh-huh,
that makes her happy or not. And I think
mm,
that makes me happier, being more truthful, being all that. And I can see that it doesn't affect her. So that's great. But I'm still very cautious and very mm, play it safe with her, as in
mhm,
I don't share.
mm. Well, okay, number one, thank you so much for sharing that because that's so I think anyone listening to you who's going to listen to this is going to value that so much. And it's probably so incredibly relatable to like almost everyone. So thank you for sharing that. And when I was listening to you, I thought, oh, this is also how our kids feel often about us, right? And so it doesn't matter how old you are when you're the child. And so it's such a similar thing. Um, okay, so this isn't sometimes this is one conversation that can completely shift a relationship, right? That starts that. Sometimes it's several layers of conversations. So, okay, so a couple things that I would just throw out as kind of things to try.
Mhm,
I feel like when we share an intention with someone, we share, we start with how much they mean to us,
mhm,
and we share an intention, a desire for our relationship. It I think that touches people. Like it for your mom, if you were to share with her how much she means to you and that you would love to have a relationship with her, like just deepen your relationship with her, and that you've noticed that you hold back from sharing certain things out of like fear of judgment, and then pause and then just listen and see what she does with it. Um, and by the way, my guess is she's wildly proud of you, and she just doesn't communicate that because it's maybe not what she was, brought up with.
mhm,
Um, but but I feel like first, I mean, if you were to share what she means to you, what your desire is for your relationship, you could pause there, or you could then also share what you feel like, just happens for you, because most people don't know our internal world,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
She may or may not know that you're protecting yourself from her that she doesn't feel emotionally safe. And my guess is like, my guess is she's probably better at this than what she came from. Did she come from like super safe emotional intimacy in her family? Like, could she have those conversations with her parents? Do you know?
Probably not, because in that generation we don't do that.
Right.
And you know what,
Right.
I grew up in my own family as well, where we don't really share. Like, parents have a lot of power over us. They tell us what to do. We don't share them what we want to do. We
But
just do it secretly.
I know, but that's where too, Quinn, I think don't underestimate your power in this.
Oh,
And I actually I tell this to teens too, because I still do a lot of pro bono and volunteer work with teens. I tell them this too. I actually think that they have more power than they think,
mm,
because as a child, your parents, all parents, like, well, I would say mine didn't actually love me. She like definitely wanted to hurt me, and like, um, but parents tend to love their children and
yeah,
want the best for them, and
yeah,
so you have more power than you think, to shift and impact that relationship. But so if you were to share kind of just the beginning that we talked about, and then pause and listen,
yeah.
she may say, let's say she says A, let's say she's like, well, okay, I don't, what if she says she doesn't want that? I don't want to have those emotional conversations. I don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
Right? Like, oh, that's awkward. I don't even, because some people, like, if they didn't, if culturally it wasn't acceptable, if they didn't like have that experience growing up, they may even think that you're not supposed to have that kind of experience. Like, oh, we don't talk about emotion, right? Like there might be some family unspoken norm that like we don't do that, right? And so you might find that out in her answer. And
Uh,
then you know that that's, oh, this is why there's this wall there, right? And
mm,
then you can do with that, that's a different type of response then for like, but what if she says something like, oh, I would want that too. And what if she says, I would want that and I actually don't know how to do that?
mm,
Or I want that and okay, like what's next? Like, what do we do? How do
mm,
we, or I didn't know, or I want that and I didn't even know that you felt like you couldn't share with me, you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So based on her response, you can go and again, like realize your power to recreate a relationship dynamic because you do have that. And often the kids can really lead parents in understanding how to be successful with them. Um, and that's really what you're doing is you're teaching your mom how to be safe emotionally for you and what that looks like. And we all as parents have blind spots somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And so she may or may not realize the ways, like the things that you said, you said that she says things that are why you feel unsafe to share with her. Or why you feel like you have to prove or earn her, respect or appreciation that she doesn't yet give that to you. She may or may not be aware that that's the impact she has on you. And so I would say first before, because sometimes we get into these like recreation conversations or repair conversations where we want to slip and slide all the way down to like, the final where we're like in tears and we're sharing all these things. But sometimes they might still be like at the very beginning. And so I think we have to help people be successful. And sometimes it's in stages. Um, and sometimes it is like all the way from start. I didn't know. And yes, I want that. And then you open up and you share your heart and soul and they can meet you in that. And then you've recreated and it's magical. But I feel like starting with sharing, your intention and how much she means to you and what this would look like, and then check in with her, give her space to have a response and see. And then I think intuitively, like feel into like what's next, what can feel like the next step. And sometimes people have a hard time getting feedback. And so I for sure, before you would ever go into like, well, you do this and this that makes me feel safe. And then you say this, and that's why I don't share this. that can get really tricky for people because often it can trigger defensiveness and reactivity and all of those things. And so you want to share, you want to like get permission for sure to share feedback, and then like microdose it. Just start with one thing. Like one thing that you feel like, and maybe instead of saying you do this and it makes me feel like this, maybe share the solution of, like for example, you could share vulnerably, because vulnerability invites vulnerability, and it's something that connects us. Blame is a divisive thing, and it
Yeah.
makes people defensive, right?
Yeah.
So even you sharing things like, well, I find myself wondering if you're proud of me, and wondering if I'll ever like do enough or be enough for you to be proud of me. That's a very vulnerable, non-blaming like thing to share. And her response to that really be interesting. And I would say before you have that conversation with her, though, like really come from a grounded space to where if she does give an answer of, well, I just expect you to, be perfect, and you're not. And until you're perfect, I can't be proud of you. Like if she were to give you something like that, you don't want to be like, see, I'm worthless, I'll never measure up. And I feel like that's where the power is within us to know our inherent worth and value. And actually, I hope that your mom can communicate that to you, because my guess is she already sees it, and she just culturally, or she just doesn't know how to give it. Maybe she never was given that. And so maybe she just really doesn't know how to articulate that and communicate that. I'm like almost confident that she feels that way about you. Um, and And what I've discovered, because I was raised, Quinn, with a mother who told me I didn't deserve to live.
Hmm.
And I was raised by a mother who beat me regularly. And even now, when I see her, she still looks at me like she wants to hurt me.
Hmm.
So I was raised by a mother who for sure couldn't see my worth and value. And in my own deep searching for who am I and where does my worth and value come from, it couldn't come from her. For me, I discovered that actually it wasn't my mom who could tell me I was good enough. I, because I was the one who gave her that power.
Yeah.
I was the one who decided that someone else's view of me impacted my worth and value, instead of reclaiming that that's their capacity to see it is their capacity. It's not my worth and value. And
Hmm.
so you actually have the power to know your worth and value. And I hope that your mom can see it. And if she can't see it, it doesn't mean you don't have it. It means she can't see it.
I really love how you empowered me and also anyone else who's struggling with the same issues. How did you get to that? Because I don't think it's easy to be able to
No.
see, to take back the
Mm,
power and
mm,
see the value in ourselves. How do you do
mm,
that? And I,
mm,
and thank you for sharing about your childhood and growing up.
mm,
Wow, that must have been so hard. So your journey to heal yourself and now
mm.
to do what you do, I understand why you're so good at what you do. Because for you to be able to overcome all of that,
Mm,
and then to let people also heal themselves this way, no wonder.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's, for me, there was such a hole, a void, and emptiness, this longing, and this loneliness inside of myself, that I did what I think all of us do in some way, is I was looking externally for validation, for safety, for security, for someone to love me, um, and to feel loved. And what I ended up having to discover is that the things that I was searching for externally actually are within me, and that it got to start with me, and that actually because I went to my husband, like, because I didn't get it at home. I was like, oh, it's partly why I was like, oh, marriage. That's I'll finally feel loved. I'll
Mm.
finally like have someone love me and then I'll know my worth. Right. But it doesn't actually work that way because like no one can ever love you enough for you to then love yourself. Like it actually needs to start with ourselves. And
Yeah.
so what I realized is that it just wasn't enough. Like,
Mm.
and I had all these reasons why my husband didn't like love me enough. Like, and he, like, even at one point, Glenn, it's like comical now, but it was like so embarrassing. Like, I even wrote him a letter at one point. He's like deployed off at war getting shot at. And I write him this letter about like how to love me more perfectly. Like, it's so horrible, right? But I was like, you know, I was convinced that he was doing it wrong, and that if he just knew how to do it right, like then I would feel loved. Like it's so bad. But yeah, so I had to turn inward
Mm.
and realize that it wasn't because I was this I was there was like a younger part of me that was waiting for my mom to finally come around and realize my worth and value.
Mm.
And frankly, I don't think it's going to happen in this life, right? And and there was also part of me that was waiting for my dad to do that. And then there was part of me that was waiting for my husband to love me good enough, like in the right way or whatever, right? And then I had like this moment of like, wow, I've completely given away all power and authority to feel loved. And it's this external thing I'm seeking. And, I went through all the like, I tried therapy and, the trauma stuff, which just for me actually just felt like it was scratching the surface. Then I threw myself into all these like personal development and leadership development, transformational programs and light workers and plant medicine and all the things until I finally realized I had to stop looking externally for the answers or the love and the safety and the purpose and all of that and the peace. And I needed to turn inward. And when I finally turned inward, I discovered it. And
Wow.
I discovered that actually I am love,
Mm.
that it's already within me and that it then is mine to pour into others instead of coming, with this like cup that needs to be full,
Right.
and filled by others. And so that was kind of my journey in a
Wow.
nutshell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for you
Thanks.
to be able to do that. And I think that because of what you've been through, it makes it no wonder that you can help so many other people. Wow. And you know what? Thank you so much for giving me a little bit of therapy right there on the show.
No, no, I mean, and this is, so different than, like for me, therapy, and I don't in any way want to like dishonor that because it's such a beautiful thing for so many people. I mean, I was able to serve in that way, and I really deeply cherished my clients that way. But this is a different level for me. This is identity level, like remembrance of who we are in
Mm.
a deeper way. To me, this is a spiritual journey,
Mm.
of coming back home to ourselves and remembering. And when we do, it's a different level of ownership. And, kind of circling back to our initial conversation about people who are redefining what's possible in family and love and discovering an expanded capacity to love because it starts within themselves. And then they can see another in a way that's totally different. And when you connect to the love that's already within you, that is inherent in your like DNA, that is like, non-human, um, you can give other people the space and grace to be perfectly imperfect and
Mm.
to be on their journey, and you see it in a way that it's not as I mean, you don't derive your value or your worth or your whatever from other people now, and so it's I don't know, there's like less attachment to their journey.
Yeah.
And for me, like I needed my husband to be different. Like it was like I really like the air that I was breathing, I like needed him to be different. And now, like, he can be on his journey, and be in his discovery, and I can give him that space and that grace. Just like I can give my mom that space and grace for the fact that she's where she is, and I can send her love and not be wounded by her anymore.
Mm. Ah, that's so beautiful. Can you pass on this aha, like this
Mhm.
empowerment to your children? Like, how did you do that to your children? I'm sure they're
Mm.
very confident and self-worth and high self-esteem kids. How did you
Mm.
do that? Like, I guess it's a daily thing that you remind them how beautiful they are and how worthy they are and all that.
Well, me telling them that is not the same as them discovering that for themselves.
Oh,
Um, and so
that's
for
right.
me, for me, it's like, yes, I want them to always know that. And like, I express their inherent worth and value and how much I love them. But it's interesting because I would say my 16-year-old and my 18-year-old are highly confident,
Mm,
highly, highly confident, individuals. And my daughter is still in discovery.
yeah.
And she's going through the teenage girl stuff. And I would love for her to know who she is more deeply.
Yeah.
And we're in this stage where I can't force it. I can't give it to her.
Mm,
And I have to honor her journey, and what I'm like, paying attention to now is like, what are the ways that, like where I'm still imperfect, where because for me, I'm all about like eternal progression. Like,
yes.
how can we continually learn? And our
Yeah.
children teach us so much. And so she's definitely teaching me right now a heightened attunement. Um, and she is very articulate, and
Wow.
she is very good at showing me where I still need to learn and develop.
Good for
And
her.
so good for her, right? Like
Yes.
I love that about her.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning alongside my daughter, of what this journey is for girls,
Oh.
and she's different than I was, and her upbringing is different, than I was, and I can't expect that it's the same. Um, and so I'm walking that journey with my daughter right now, and it's a very sacred space, and I'm really, really looking forward to her discovering who she is. And I hope that every day I can be better at having the level of presence with her and seeing her in a way that she remembers who she is, and
Oh,
her inherent worth and value, and that she doesn't need to compare herself to anyone else, and that what's in the mirror is not, where her worth is. And so we're in that. We're in that right now.
oh, I love what you just said. The fact
Mhm.
that it's more important how she sees herself and not like it doesn't matter how much we say that she's beautiful and that she's worthy and all that, but they have to
Mhm.
realize it for themselves. Oh,
Mhm.
this journey is so precious. I
Yeah.
Oh, she's so lucky. And you know what?
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Carrie. But and I always ask my guest one
Mhm.
question before we finish the interview is, what is your happy pill? Like, what do you do when shit hits the fan or when things don't go your way? What do you do? What is your happy pill?
Well, I'm super blessed to live across the street from the beach.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
so I walk the beach, and I have this new thing actually that I do that's quite incredible. I have to thank Shanda Sumter for introducing it to me.
Oh yes, I know
Um,
what it is. Yeah.
yes, I'll tell you kind of the earlier version and now what it is. For me, like when I can feel all of the feelings, and it's, I'm feeling very intense, uncomfortable emotion, I go out in nature, and right now for me, it's the beach. When I lived in Germany, it was like this beautiful grassy hill, and I would just take my shoes off and like be in like the grass,
Yeah.
because the green and the heart chakra are like, like
Yeah.
those connect.
Yeah.
So I immerse myself in nature and I spend time alone, and I've developed kind of this practice of like laying it down. And I okay, so maybe this sounds silly. But the bottoms of our feet have the largest pores in our body. And so like I use essential oils. And so like when you put essential oils on your feet, it gets soaked up into the whole body. And so it's interesting to me that like our largest pores that impact all of our whole system are on our feet. And so I started doing this grounding practice out in nature where I go out in nature and it's like I root into the earth through my feet, and I just like any difficult emotion that I'm feeling, I just send it down
Oh.
into the earth and release it and like lay it down.
Mm.
And then I've done it now for so long that I can like I feel the like pulsing of
Mm.
the earth, and I like can receive love and like I don't know, it's like it like reinvigorates me. And so I have this whole laying down, like out in nature where I just like kind of pour it out. And then I'm in this receptive space where I can receive like life-giving energy. And so that's historically been what has worked really, really well for me. Um, and I pray. And so that's my like prayer space too. And now now I walk and I talk out loud with Heavenly Father. And I'm thankful. I'm like repenting. But if it's like really intense for me, sometimes just offering my heart and there's no words. And
Mm.
sometimes I can't walk and I just sit. But now like I walk and I talk and I work things out with Heavenly Father, and that's, and sometimes I'm crying and sometimes I'm, like frustrated and angry, and I just let myself be wherever I am, and I just share it, and I just kind of unpack it, and then I pause, and then I listen,
Mm.
and I allow myself to receive, and I don't I feel like it's like the fail safe. It's like I always feel better after that.
Right.
And even if I haven't, like, even if my circumstances in the moment haven't yet changed, the fact that I could just unload and I could just lay it down, and I didn't have to pretend to be, to feel any other way. And I don't shame the emotional experience I have. Actually, and I think that's part of it, is allowing yourself to fully feel whatever there is to feel. Because emotion, it's supposed to move through us,
Mm.
right? And so allowing it to move through me, allowing myself to feel all the feels, because if I don't allow myself to feel that feeling, I certainly can't then be present to another and feel with them if they're feeling a feeling I haven't allowed myself to feel.
Right.
And so, allowing it to move through me, it like then is something that I can be present for another in. So, anyways, that's what I do.
That's amazing. And you went into so much detail. So thank you so much for that. We can pretty
I
much
know.
try to do what you do now.
It was a very long answer. I'm sorry, but
No, no, that is beautiful. And that is the perfect answer because I feel like we can almost do it, try that for ourselves.
Mm,
And that's the whole purpose of me asking this question because every one of us have our own happy pill. And
mm,
whoever resonates with that can try that.
mm.
Oh, so thank you so much, Carie, for being on this show. I love you so much.
Aw, I love you too, Quinn. Thank you for inviting me. It's always so fun to spend time with you. You're such a light.
I so are you. I'm like, oh, every time I get to chat with Carie, I feel better. Thank you, and
Likewise,
I hope to have you
likewise.
back in the future.
Yes, thank you, Quinn.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and joining with us on this show. I'll see you next time.